Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Welcome back once again to Spiritism, a closer look. It's our weekly program every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Kardec Radio. I'm Luiz Lima, your host for tonight. And tonight we decided to bring an interesting topic. We're going to take a closer look at mass murders of innocent people. Well, it's no coincidence we chose this topic to talk about today. We are still going through this war in Ukraine for quite some time now. And then just 3 days ago, on October 8th, 2023, we had this new attack on Israel, and it was horrific and unprecedented, never seen before. By terrorists into Israeli soil. So our talk today is about this, but let me make sure you understand the purpose of this talk. It's not in any way about politics. It's not in any way about right and wrong, who's right, who's wrong. It's not about taking sides. First of all, right and wrong require a reference. For me to tell you something is right or something is wrong, I need to use a reference. What is that reference? So, we do this all the time as a spirit, not so much advanced here on earth. Who are we to dethrone God and establish our own absolute references? Who are we? We can't do this. So the program tonight is about the Spiritist perspective on the situation. That's it. We are talking about Spiritism, nothing else. So we, on the news, we have been, following the news in general. Most people, at least you take a peek here and there. Not that it's good, it's really awful. But, it's out there and it's being called a war. The initial attack, we cannot really consider a war, because a war is something that, first of all, it was without any notice. It took the world by surprise, and there was no declaration of war, nothing that indicated that we are getting close to this. No, absolutely nothing like this. So at its very beginning, we cannot really consider it to be a war in the general sense of the word, because a war involves disputing anything or personal gain, seeking for conquest of land or people even. This attack seeks destruction, pure annihilation. So it didn't have the tone of a war. It became a war later when, there was a fight backs. But the original, how the thing started, we can call a mass murder, massacre, terrorism, but not really war in the traditional sense of the word. Let's make things clear according to Spiritism. Again, the program is about Spiritism. Bear with me. What can we say, or even better, what does Spiritism tells us about taking lives, killing people? If you take the Spirit's book and you browse to question 746, that is exactly the question. Taking lives, is that a crime, yes or no? And the answer from the Spirits is beautiful. The answer is, it's a great crime, not only a crime, a great crime. Again, the question is about taking lives. It doesn't say how. So it is a great crime because those who take the life of another fellow being thereby cut short a life of expiation or mission, hence the evil. You see, it's taking lives. It doesn't need to be one. So it's for assassinations. It goes from assassinations to abortion to euthanasia, to terrorism, any type. Murder is murder. Murder is taking lives. Taking lives is a crime. There will be consequences. So in 2023, we should be a lot more advanced than this, at least morally speaking. We are intellectually, but morally, we are still far behind. How can things like this, horrible, horrific, terrible, still happen in our days? Well, it has to do with the same as always: selfishness, pride. But let's think about this for a minute. It is that way because those who commit these crimes, those who take lives, they have this perceived supremacy. Perceived supremacy. As such, they kind of establish what is true and what is not. What can be done, what cannot be done. It's a sort of inquisition in 2023. They dictate the truth. This particular thing is truth, this other thing is not. So they feel like they are above everybody else. That's what supremacy is, better than everybody else. However, it's not supremacy per se. It's a perceived supremacy. They think that themselves are superior of any kind. And what are the reasons for that? It could be many, or even a combination of them. It could be race. I think my race is better than the others. It could be gender. This gender is better than the other. It could be religious beliefs. I think my beliefs is correct and yours is not. And it could be a combination of things. So there are reasons that make these people do these things. These reasons are taken by them as perceived supremacy. But it's not. It's a pseudo supremacy because it's not based on facts. It's based on perception, and that changes everything. These people, they are empowered by the attachment that they have to their own perception. But perception is not evidence. It will never be. Perception is not a fact. You and I can look at the same thing, and my perception is different than yours. I will tell you this is what I take home from this particular thing. And you can say, no, but I take home something different. That's not evidence. That is just opinion, nothing else. Their perception is taken by them as an absolute true fact. And that's what they go by. And that leads to this perceived or pseudo supremacy. One thing that's important: perception depends on the spiritual maturity. Depends on the spiritual maturity. So perception is not the same for everyone upon the same event, the same whatever situation, circumstances. And in referring to spiritual maturity, we are going to go back to the spirit scale. I have spoken about the spirit scale lately for quite some time. And it really helps us to understand a few things. So let me bring it up on the screen for you. We can follow along here, if you will. So what we have here is on the left side, we're going to do some animation here because I just think, personally, I think it's easier to explain using visual resources. So on the left side of the screen here, you have the spirit scale. So it's categorized, it's how we categorize spirits based on their level of advancement. At the bottom of the scale, we have the least advanced ones, the impure. At the top of the scale, pure. These are the most advanced spirits, and everything in between. So one interesting thing is when we study, or when we studied, we did this a few times already, the spirit scale. What we can tell, what we know is spirits towards the bottom of the scale are more prone towards evil, and it gets worse as you get further down to the bottom of the scale. Spirits, they are presented here on the screen in shades of red. So the real red ones, which are called impure spirits, those are almost like pure evil, almost like 100% evil. They are undergoing their first human incarnations. At the top of the scales, or going towards the top of the scale, we have in shades of green, spirits that are more advanced, much more advanced than those in red. And at the top of the scale, we have the pure spirits. Now, these spirits, the red one, shades of red and shades of green, need to reincarnate because they need to purify themselves. They need to get better. They need to advance, so they are given a chance to reincarnate. Pure spirits don't have to because they've reached perfection. They will only incarnate if needed, if they think it's a good thing to do as a mission, but they are not required to. They don't have to. So spirits, let's call red spirits and green spirits to make it easier for the vocabulary here. So these red spirits and these green spirits, they have to live, they have to have a spiritual habitat. And that's interesting because just a couple of weeks ago, we were studying the worlds, categories of worlds, and there are 5 categories of worlds. And you see them here on the right side of your screen, from bottom to top: primitive, which are for suitable for spirits undergoing their first human incarnations. Then from bottom to top. Second, worlds of trials and expiations. That's us. That's the earth. The earth is one of them. The next one up, regenerative worlds, then happy worlds, and divine or heavenly worlds. We cannot do a matchup, a perfect matchup between the left column and the right column, but we can do some approximate idea of what this means. For example, primitive worlds. So worlds that are worse than ours. We are trials and expiations. Worlds that are primitive usually house impure spirits. Trials and expiations, as you see on the screen, regenerative, happy, and heavenly. You see, there are overlays because this is not set in stone. It's an absolute classification by no means. So we will have, for example, frivolous spirits in primitive worlds. Also, we will have just a few, because the purpose of frivolous spirits living in primitive worlds is to help them to grow up. In order to do that, they need to see how spirits that are more advanced live, what they do. And similarly, on earth, which is trials and expiations, we have impure spirits living among us, because these are spirits that are being given a chance to see, to kind of put their head in a window and see what's going on in that planet Earth. So they had the chance, they are having this chance to live in a world of trials and expiations, so they can see and they can know better. They will say, oh, I got to change my ways because these people do this, I'm still far behind. That's the purpose of this matchup that we are doing here. So do we have impure spirits living on earth? Yes, we do. Who are they? We can't name. There's not a matter of give me your birth certificate. It's not like this. Incarnations come and go. People, incarnate, discarnate. And some of these impure spirits could be right now discarnate, waiting for a chance to come on board, if you will. So this graphic, hopefully it will help you, give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So coming back to the point, do we have on earth impure spirits? Yes, we do. So when you look at attitudes like these that we had on October 8th, this week, these attitudes are so low, so evil, that even for us undergoing trials and expiations, it's something off track, completely off track. These evil spirits, impure spirits, they will sustain, they are able to sustain things like these because that's what they do best. That's what they do best. You see, beheading babies might be seen by them as normal and acceptable. For spirits that are more advanced than the impure ones, it's not. So the fact, and that's a fact, not a perception, the fact that we have impure spirits in worlds of trials and expiations, us, for example, creates a problem because they live off cruelty. That's what they do. That's what they do best. If you go to the Spirits book on question 753, it's written right there. Cruelty is a dominant characteristic of primitive peoples. It's right there. And also on the Spirits book, question 752, you will see, the Spirit says, destruction is sometimes necessary, but cruelty never is. Never. And they'll continue. It is always the result of an evil nature. Cruelty is always, 100% of the time, the result of an evil nature. Evil nature, if you go back, mentalize the scale, the spirit scale, those are spirits at the bottom of the scale. So for us, live in the situation, having to deal with all of this, having to first of all sink in, because you know the images on TV and even the written text by publishing magazines and newspapers, and so it's horrible. So the first idea is that these people are barbarians, evildoers. That's the level that they are. They have very little reasoning and almost a complete lack of moral sense. That's why these things take place. Now, one thing that you and I, need to understand is they are the tare that helps the wheat grow. Jesus tells us the parable, separate the wheat from the tares. However, and that's what's going to explain everything. However, you cannot separate them too early. Because if you do this, the wheat will not grow. The wheat needs the tares in the beginning to grow. If you separate them too early, you kill the wheat. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like saying all the good depends of having done all the evil. Incredible. That's what it sounds like. How does he help us? Well, first of all, we need to understand that we are approaching the bottom. This was ugly, like unprecedented, like I said before, never seen before, never expected in anything close like this. For us, it feels the need to grow away from evil. So we don't want to see this. We don't want to live this. We don't want to turn on the news. But we can't. We are part of the same psychosphere, the same psychic atmosphere. We are part of it. So that is the next thing. A tragedy like this, it's a tragedy, triggers in each one of us the need to do some sort of charity. It could be this much charity, but it triggers us to seek for some sort of helping these people. And think about this. Jesus came to teach us two things, which are basically the same, mixed one in the other, charity and love. How good are we? We meaning humanity. How good are we in doing charity work? Awful, horrible. We don't do that. If we don't do this, and this is what we should be doing because that's the law of God, events will take place that will trigger in us the need to do some charity work. That's one of them. That's one of them. Natural disasters is another one. Hurricanes and tsunamis. When these things happen and a lot of people get displaced or, hurt or die, we feel in our hearts and we do that. Oh, well, how can I do to help? That triggers charity within. This does too. So when this happens, not that it's good that it's happening, but it's an alert for us to understand we are not doing charity enough. So things like these are still needed in a world of trials and expiations. Unfortunately, but that's what it is. Selfishness is the sentiment that denies charity. That's what the Spirit tells us, Spirit's book. So our question is it time enough already to leave the tear behind? Or is it too early for us? Translation. Are we ready to never let this happen again by sustaining things like this in our minds, in our thoughts? Or we need more of these things. We need more of the tear to be, with us here until we can detach them from the weeds. That's a tough question. However, every time something horrible happens, we go like, oh, that's it. Now we have reached the bottom. And we haven't. It keeps happening worse and worse and worse. So, are we ready to separate the wheat from the tare? Probably not. If you think about things about like mass shootings, school shootings, you see, school shootings is the same thing. There is no dispute. The shooter and the kids, they're not having an argument because one wants this and the other wants the other thing. No, there is. It's not. Nothing is under dispute. It's pure evil. Just the need that they feel to be disruptive and destructive. It's how they express the evil within. So we come back to the question, right? Have we grown enough to get rid of the tare? For them, they bear the responsibility for not complying to the law of God. And like I said in the beginning, taking lives is a crime. There will be consequences. Taking one life will take consequences. Taking many lives, mass murders, bears a tremendous responsibility. So unfortunately, that's what we are going through. It's the news of the week. It's all out there. Uh, to my knowledge, everybody is almost ecstatic about these news. Like we just we stopped. We are framed by the horror that we have seen, beheading babies, and it goes more and more and more. So Spiritism invites us. Spiritism does not condemn. Like I said in the beginning, this is not about who's right and wrong, not taking sides. Absolutely not. Spiritism teaches us several things. We need to learn so we can move in the right direction. Moving in the right direction is walking away from things like this. So what can I do to walk away from things like this? I gotta change my thoughts. I gotta do charity work. I gotta acquire more knowledge, more spiritual knowledge. That's a big, big, big one. So that's what we're gonna do. And unfortunately, for those who are impure spirits living on earth, they have to undergo the struggles. We have been there one day. So who are we to say you this and you that? No, not at all. We have our own chances. We have our own opportunities given by God. They have their opportunities too. Why not? If we have ours, why they can have theirs? So the psychic atmosphere of the planet, also called psychosphere, is sustained by all the 25 billion people whose spiritual habitat is the earth. That includes 8 billion currently incarnated and the others who are discarnate. Among them, several impure spirits who will still incarnate here one day. Thank you very much for your attention today. Hopefully the news will be better as we go along. We pray every day for better news for people who are undergoing this, innocent people who are undergoing this, that they can be enlightened and they can receive the help that they deserve from the good spirits above. Thanks so much. We'll be back here next week. Don't forget, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Spiritism, a closer look.